Now I'm going to introduce our distinguished lecturer tonight, although he says it's a talk rather than a lecture. But Paul Ettinger is a great friend of the university and a donor to the university, supporting our campaigns, but also an alumnus, graduating in physics and electronics from the university. But he also has an MBA from INSEAD in France. He spent a number of years working in the chemical industry, working abroad, but then in 2008 moved back to the UK with a friend, acquired 5 coffee bars, which subsequently became Caffè Nero. Now we have over 800 of the outlets across the UK, Ireland, UAE, Cyprus, Poland, Turkey, USA. For the first 10 years, Caffè was responsible for all that the cafes were doing. Now he does that less of his time, but is very interested in a whole range of activities from Caffè Nero. He's also been founding social networks, which have grown, and these are developing into global business. He's an angel investor and directs 5 other businesses. I don't even know how you've got time, Paul, to come here tonight, but it's wonderful to hear from you, and we're really looking forward to hearing your talk. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me to talk this evening. This is a very personal tale of what I've really been doing since I left university. I think I will set the scene by taking off my jacket. I would like this to be a formal talk rather than a lecture. I'm going to talk for about 35, maybe 40 minutes, and it's split into 2 parts. The first part will really be about how I got to Caffè Nero, and then the story of Caffè Nero. And then I think we'll take a break. You'll probably be tired of hearing my voice, and we'll have a few questions there about Caffè Nero. And then I'll go on to talk about my latest venture, which is a social network. I will try and avoid all the business jargon, and this is being videoed. But they promised me I will be allowed to edit the video, because I tend to speak completely out of turn and say things which I shouldn't. And as you all know, the internet is forever. So it might get edited after I've spoken. I might also be able to change the misconceptions about entrepreneurs. And I guess my objective tonight is maybe someone in the audience will decide to become an entrepreneur after hearing the talk. That would be great. That was a great thing. But back to the beginning, I'll go all the way back. I'm British, but neither of my parents were British. They came to this country as refugees. My mother came in 1938, my father in 1975. Thanks to this great country, they were allowed to come and live here and make their lives here. I was born in London in 1900. Went to grammar school, a good, ordinary grammar school, and then ended up in this fabulous institution in 78. Very lucky to be here. As you heard, I took a degree in physics and electronics. Why did I do physics and electronics? Well, that was really, as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs like to hedge their bets. So I thought if I had 1 foot as an engineer and 1 foot as a scientist, I was bound to get a job when I left. At the same time, I did undertake some entrepreneurial activities while I was here. In particular, I think very important for me later on in my life, I became captain of the ski club, which is one of my passions in life, which is skiing. And as captain of the ski club, I took 120 students to the Alps. In fact, we did 2 big trips to the Alps each year, which was a tremendous experience for me, because it meant making a budget, planning, making a lot of things happen, and creating a great holiday for about 120 students. So that was a really good experience, and that was I think, a very important part of my Southampton experience. I did work really hard in the 3rd year and came out with 2-1, I'll have you all know, which actually turned out to be really important later on in my life. So I graduated in 1980. Now, I know there are a lot of younger people in the audience who won't remember this but in 1980 it was not a great year to graduate. There was 1.9 million unemployed, there was 18% inflation, it was the middle of the Thatcher Revolution, the miners were on strike, the economy was in free fall, it actually declined by 4% that year. What a great year to graduate as a student. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I didn't want to go for a mainstream job, and so, like all good scientists, I made a list of the objectives, things I wanted to achieve in my first job. And it was quite simple. I said I wanted to earn a lot of money, I wanted to have really great holidays, I wanted to have adventure, and I wanted to travel. That seemed like a reasonable list to me. And then, again, like a good scientist, what did I do? I went to the library, I got out a very big book which was called Graduate Opportunities, a huge book with thousands and thousands of jobs in it. Wonderful, wonderful book. I don't know if it still exists. And I went through the book, and at the end of going through the entire book, I picked out 5 companies which actually would tick all these boxes. Absolutely amazing. And I wrote a letter to these 5 companies, and to my amazement, I was actually called to an interview. And 3 weeks later, I found myself on a very small plane, twin-engine Otter, I remember now, with a pilot, 24 dead chickens and half a dead beef cow, and I was flying into the Libyan desert. And I spent 2 years after graduating in a very interesting, slightly entrepreneurial venture in the Libyan desert. As an engineer, obviously, what did they make me do? We were a seismic crew, but I wasn't allowed to be a seismic engineer to start with. We were a seismic crew who used a lot of dynamite, so naturally they made me the explosives expert. And I spent a year, actually, as an explosives expert, blowing up large holes in the Libyan desert. So great, great career move, I thought. We then moved to another part of the desert. We actually moved north. From the southern part of the Libyan desert, and we moved up towards the coast. And the problem there is that the bit of the desert there is actually subkept, which is it's partially swamp. And unfortunately, the British, at some point in our history, in the First World War, had left lots of landmines there and personnel mines. And so my job then for the next few months was actually clearing mines. So, fairly entrepreneurial, but it actually taught me a lot because we worked in teams, and I realised then the importance of being in a really good team, because when you're doing that kind of work, you're completely dependent on the people around you, number one. And number two, you have to be prepared to make decisions really quickly. And I think over those 2 years, I learned those 2 very key important lessons. And of course, you also learn how to be independent, and independence is very useful as an entrepreneur. After a couple of years in the desert, I realised that was probably not a great career, and my mother would certainly agree with me. And I decided to reorientate myself, and that's when I went to INSEAD. As we heard, I applied. Thanks to this incredible education I got here, and thanks to my 2-1, I was accepted to INSEAD, which is a business school in France, and I had a wonderful year in France, learning about business. Accounting, marketing, an MBA, so a really rounded business degree. And I was actually headhunted out of there into a completely non-entrepreneurial business, which was a company called Cauterise, which was one of those great British chemical institutions. We had about 50,000 employees, massive business. But I was offered a very good job, first time in my life I could earn a reasonable amount of money, and I thought I would learn a lot. In fact, what I learned at Cauterise, which was this great knowledge of business, was how not to do business. Unfortunately, over the next 30 years I spent at Cauterise, we ended up losing about £1 billion in value. Well, that's a great lesson. You learn a lot. When you see mistakes being made in business, you actually learn more than sometimes when things are going right. But I hung out there for 30 years, had some fantastic projects. I did a lot of work in Asia and watched the whole Asian, the economies of Asia start to really grow. And actually, I was one of the first people to build joint ventures in
China, which was absolutely fascinating. But unfortunately, as the main company was not doing very well at all. Ultimately, I ended up buying a company in Germany on behalf of Courtaulds and went out to run that company, which was a typical German Mittelstand company. It's a family-owned business that we bought. And then again, a great experience for a couple of years, living in southern Germany, working with a very efficient small German company. So tremendous education to me, but up to that point, I'd never really been a proper entrepreneur. I sort of learned elements of entrepreneurship, I've seen incredible mistakes being made, but I hadn't done anything myself. And then I was sitting at my desk in Germany, I remember it today, in '98, and it's one of those moments in one's life where something happens, the door opens, a phone rings, and you've got to make a decision. Right? And the phone rang, and there was a friend on the other end of the phone who I'd been in business school with, and he said, "Paul, I hear you coming back to London, let's start a coffee bar." That's it. Just let's start. I said, "Why me?" He says, "Well, you know about food, don't you?" That was my sort of interview. I said, "Well, yeah, I do know about food. I love cooking. I love going to the market, buying food. I love cooking. So I do know about food." He said, "Well, we're going to do a coffee bar." What an incredible idea. He was American, and what had happened is he had seen Starbucks rise in America from nothing over a short period of time and take off. Now, Starbucks at that time were not in Europe, but we could see what could happen. I had come out of this sort of continental Europe background, so I'd been brought up in England, Germany, Austria and France, and I knew what coffee bars could be. And remember back in 1998, coffee bars didn't really exist in this country at all. There was nothing here. But I thought it sounded like a great idea, and I felt I couldn't see why the English wouldn't enjoy coffee bars just as much as the Austrians or the French or the Germans. And that was really how the initial idea for Caffè Nero started up. So he offered me a fantastic 75% cut in salary. That's the life of an entrepreneur. I had no money, so I couldn't actually buy into the company, but he offered me options. And we worked out that as my wife was working, if everything went wrong, we could probably survive for another year. So we came back to England, and actually what happened is we bought 5 coffee bars. Now, if anyone's thinking ever of starting a business, the best way of starting a business is to buy an existing business. They were just 5 coffee bars. They were already doing okay, but they didn't have a proper brand. And we took over these 5 coffee bars. What I didn't tell you is that when I agreed to join, I didn't actually agree to join, I actually agreed to spend, I think I said I'd spend 8 weeks helping him turn the coffee bar around, but then I had to get a proper job. And I had actually gone out and found another job, and I'd accepted this job, but what I managed to do was to defer starting work for this other company. So I went to Caffè Nero, we bought these 5 coffee bars, we were sort of getting them going, and of course, I then realised this is much more fun than running a chemical company. I was having such a good time, I kept deferring this other job, until in the end, the owner of the company I'd meant to join got so fed up with me, he told me to forget it, which was the best thing ever. Of course, my wife never believed me, she said that's what he always wanted to do. So there we were, with 5 coffee bars, and not much else. We had to build a team. You might hear about things like Facebook, and you hear about Mark Zuckerberg, and you think there's one guy who's built an incredible business. It's not one guy. There's always a team. You might not hear about them, there's always a great team. We were a team of 4. We were very lucky. We had a great finance director who came out of the fraud office, so pretty good experience. We had a second generation Italian who knew something about coffee, luckily. He'd been running coffee bars. My friend who was the chairman, and he'd come out of a venture capital background, so he knew about raising capital, which is really important. And myself, who knew about food. And that was it. And that's how we started Caffè Nero. And in a way, the fact that we didn't really have much experience of running coffee bars actually worked to our advantage, because we just made up everything as we went along. We knew the market We thought we knew the market was ripe for change. We had a vision of creating a continental coffee bar, which we knew worked on the continent, and we just felt that it could work over here. If you think back to '98, there was very little competition in the market. Now that's good, because clearly there's space for us, but it's bad because no one knew what a good coffee bar was. The other thing that was happening at that time was there was incredible growth in people travelling overseas. I looked up the statistics. In 1970, 8.5 million people travelled abroad from the UK. By 1990, 31 million people were travelling abroad. So there was this incredible sudden globalisation. People were travelling, they were finding out about foreign foods, about coffee bars, about what was going on outside the UK, and yeah, we thought they would then come back and they would want to have the same experience in London. Food quality was improving. It wasn't great in London, and there was a huge, you forget that back in those days, people didn't know what mozzarella was. I mean, we came along, when we launched our mozzarella pesto panini, people didn't know what it was. But we realised that we thought that the market was starting to develop. So the trends in the market, it was open. There was a great opening for a continental coffee bar, we felt. And the other thing that helped us a great deal was that there was a lot of immigration starting to come in from Europe, and all of our coffee bars then were staffed pretty much by Italians. It was a tremendous thing for us to help the brand, we were an Italian brand. Since then, we're now probably 50% East European, but having that pool of labour available was very, very important for us when we started Caffè Nero. So a lot of people would say, well, we were lucky. We just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And the amazing thing is, the harder we worked, the luckier we became. It sounds easy, but actually they were very tough times. We were an unknown brand. No one wanted to come to Caffè Nero. Who were we? So when we opened up our first new Caffè Nero in '98, late '98, we opened up the first new one, we stood outside and we watched people go past. No one came in. So what do? Well, I stood outside giving out free coffee cards. That's how we sort of primed the pump and got people to come in. As soon as I said the word free, would stop and take the coffee from me. It was amazing. And they would come into the coffee bar, into the Caffè Nero, and they'd have their free coffee, which was great. And then I would stand there the next day, and I would watch the same people come back and pay for their coffee. And that was really late '98, '99. And that was at that moment that I thought, actually, maybe we're not crazy. Maybe there really is something here. If these people are coming back day after day, repeat customers, maybe all my friends, all my family are telling me that I'm mad to have started this business. Maybe they're the ones that are wrong. Maybe we've actually got something here that's going to work. And that's really the first time I felt that we were onto something. That we were creating a business that was really going to work. And we grew one by one. Of course, building a coffee bar, bricks and mortar, you need capital. Every Caffè Nero cost us about £300,000. We didn't have that money. We were always going back to the shareholders, going to our friends and family and saying, can we have some more money? We want to build more. And they were great. When we showed them the numbers, they said, yeah, you can have a bit more. But the problem in that industry is that every quarter you have to pay rent. So every quarter we'd run out of money. And it just really became very, very difficult in the end. And finally, in 2001, we decided to float the company. By then we had 58 stores. And for better or worse, we floated on the main London stock market in 2001. And we raised £9 million, which for us then was an awful lot of money. Share price was 50p. Going public sounds wonderful. It meant I could pick up the paper every morning and see what I was worth. Isn't that great? Unfortunately, the downside of it is that you're completely transparent. Everyone wants to know what you're doing. And the banks, they wanted to know every month how the numbers were looking. They were only interested in short-term profit. So you're under a huge amount of pressure from day one in an industry which, almost by definition, is cyclical. It has its ups and downs, and yet they just wanted to see the numbers go up and up. And they didn't want us to invest in certain things like going abroad. So our relationship with the city wasn't always that smooth. And by the year 2007, when we'd then grown to 350 coffee bars, we made the decision, a very tough decision, to take it private again. So we'd been around the whole cycle, and we borrowed a huge amount of money, hundreds of millions of pounds, and we bought back all the public shareholders. But we were then private again, and we were in control of our own destiny. So that's 10 years, which I've sort of put into about 15 minutes, of this incredible growth in this amazing market. Now the market, I have to say, was growing by 5 to 20% a year. Unbelievable. Very, very few markets grow at that rate year after year after year. We've now been going for 18 years, and in those 18 years, there's only been one quarter where we haven't had positive like-for-like growth. That's incredible. And there's hardly another industry in the world that can show that sort of growth, but it's a wonderful place to be. And we were there. And then in 2007, we took it private. Suddenly we were on our own, but we had sufficient cash to grow the business. But I was completely burnt out. 10 years of creating Panini had taken its toll. And I actually, I said, I want to get out. I wanted to leave. And the chairman took me to one, my friend, who brought me into the business, took me to one and said, no, you can't leave. I said, what do you mean I can't leave? I'm out. I want to have a break. I'm going to go away and do something else. And he said, no, you can't. What do you want to do? That's very dangerous when you're effectively your boss asks you, what is it you want to do? So I said, oh, that's an interesting one. Let me have a think about this. Right. I will look after music, hence. And he said, okay, you can look after the music. By then I'd built up a music program where we were starting to sponsor young musicians. And that had become more and more important and was taking up more and more of my time. So he said, yeah, okay, that's great, you can do music. So since then, I have been doing music for Caffè Nero. He then said, anything else? I said, yeah, I want to do international development. And he said, oh yeah, that's great. He was very happy about that because that's part of what I do, my experiences in developing business internationally. And so he said, yes, you can do that. And we're now in 7 countries worldwide. And then he said, is that it? And I go, no, actually, I want to work 2 days a week. At which point he kind of staggered backwards, but he realised I would have gone if he hadn't said yes. And so I left. Or I went to 2 days a week working, and that's still what I'm doing today for Caffè Nero. I work 2 days a week, which has allowed me to spend a lot more time doing other things and has led on to other businesses, which I'll talk about later. So if we fast forward to 2015, we've now got to 800 coffee bars, or just under 800 coffee bars in 7 countries. We turn over about £350 million. We employ about 4,500 people, and we're profitable. So that's, in a nutshell, the sort of story of Caffè Nero. Difficult to sort of cover it all in 15 minutes. I think what would be great now is if you'd like to ask questions, you're probably fed up listening to me speak, and give me a break and I can sort of see what kind of an audience you are. If you'd like to ask questions anything about Caffè Nero, I'm very happy to answer them. Any question whatsoever, because I can always edit them out afterwards. So any questions particularly about Caffè Nero?
You stopped your talk about Caffè Nero in 2007, and we then had the global recession that hit. How did the business cope with the downtimes?
Coffee has become an affordable luxury. You know, people, I think people gave up their exotic holidays, and they gave up amounts of outrageous expenditure. But what it appears is that you have to be completely, really in trouble to give up your daily coffee. I mean, that is now a necessity of life, I would say. At least I hope it is. And that's the one it seems. And as I said, we have only had 1 quarter in the entire 18 years of negative like-for-like. So we've grown every quarter since we started. So personally, as a company, we've never seen a recession.
We met at an event here, 2007, 2008, and I asked you why you hadn't opened in the States. And I don't know whether you actually gave me an answer then, but you said if you did open, you would open in Boston. What happened? We
have now got 4 coffee bars open in Boston. and we're building a few more. And they're doing incredibly well. America is obviously the home of our great enemy, who we shall not talk about. What we did, I mean, America is a graveyard for British businesses. There are so many, the names go on forever. Tesco's there. So what I did is, we're culturally, we're very flexible. I mean, it's partly our backgrounds, and partly that we understand now that building businesses, you can't just transplant a brand, a very strong brand like Caffè Nero. You can't just take it from the UK and plonk it in Boston. That's what Pret a Manger tried to do. They plonked Pret a Manger in New York. Complete disaster. So what I did is that in order to show my fellow directors just what we needed to do, I put in front of them on a table, I went and got the Pret a Manger menu in the UK, and I got the Pret a Manger menu in the USA, and I got them round the table, and I said, right, what can you see in common? And they all looked at the menu and go, they're completely different. Exactly. Foot to one side. We started really from a clean sheet of paper in the States. We changed the food completely. We've changed our operations completely. We make everything fresh in store. We brought in some American-style coffees, some drip coffees. We've really changed an awful lot. And I think as a result of that, and we're spending a lot more on design, because the Americans have actually not invested a great deal in retail in the last few years, because of their own problems. And when you go over there, it's remarkable how backward actually the coffee bars are. So we've gone out there and we've built these incredible coffee bars with, roaring artificial log fires and huge displays of books, and as they imagine a sort of Italian coffee bar might look like. But they look amazing, and it has wowed the Bostonians, and we're doing really well out there. So we're going to carry on. And obviously America is a very big market, so it might suck up rather a lot of capital in the next few years. Don't know.
Sorry. In a market that's becoming increasingly full of various chains and all the rest of it, how would you summarise that you differentiate your brand from the others? Because you could argue a couple of copies you don't.
You could. You're right. I mean, it is becoming incredibly competitive. The number of coffee bars in this country now per head of population, or per 10,000 of population, is higher than in Seattle, right? That is where we are now. I mean, every high street has a number of coffee bars. And if that wasn't enough, so you've got your Costas and you've got your Nero and you have Starbucks. Now we have all the independents coming through. So the competitive environment is really getting tough. In the early days, it was easier. So there are a number of ways. In the early days, what we did is we just wanted to be completely different from Starbucks. So they were American, we were Italian, Mediterranean. They served their coffee in a certain style. It's like being in a factory. You go down the line, you're asked what drink you want, and you pay for it by someone else, and then you get made the drink by someone else, and you end up at the end of the line and you get given your coffee. We always felt that was a really impersonal way, not a very nice way to do coffee. If you come into Nero, you notice you have a one-to-one relationship. So there were lots and lots of different ways. One of the ways I did it, and that's worked really well, is from the very early days, I started managing the music and playing. In the morning we play classical. We're now the only coffee bar, pretty well, certainly the only chain that plays classical music in the morning. We then play a really great jazz mixture over lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, we have fabulous musicians, many of them not that well known, like Lenny playing for us in the afternoon. So people are hearing music they've never heard anywhere else. And that also helps. So there are lots of different ways that you can differentiate yourself in the market. But it's certainly becoming harder, and we have to work harder at that.
So as an observation, I thought you said, actually your coffee tastes better, and that's why we go...
I didn't mention the coffee, sorry. Cut that from it. Oh, no. Our core, everything we built, and I could talk for an hour about our coffee and why our coffee is better, but everything we've ever done has been built around a core product. The pillar of our brand is all built around the coffee. And if any of you ever want to build a brand, you have to decide what your pillars are going to be. Ours was and still is coffee, and always will be coffee. And we've actually just upgraded our coffee in a number of different ways, which I won't talk about. So we still have the best coffee in town, and we intend to own that space and always own that space of really great coffee. And that's really important for us. I should have said it at the beginning. Okay, I'll maybe take one more question. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. You told us that your hated enemy began with an S. But how do you feel about waitrose?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. It's not about the coffee. In fact, that's a great question to lead me on to my next passion in life, which is communities. People come to Caffè Nero because it's a gathering place. It's a community. It has a certain ambiance, it's music playing. It's not just about drinking a hot beverage, it's about lots and lots of other things. Obviously, we might have lost a bit of business to Waitrose free coffee, but that's not what we're about. We're about building community gathering places which people want to come to day after day, 2 or 3 times a week. And that's really the business we're in. So I don't think we've even ever discussed it at a high level. We didn't see it as being competition. So that sort of brings me on beautifully into the next part of the story. Let me go back to 2008. So there I was, reasonably successful entrepreneur. For the first time in my life, had a little bit of money in the bank and plenty of free time, which, as my wife would say, is very dangerous indeed. And the idea of communities started to really go around in my mind the whole time. And I realised then that we weren't just serving coffee. We were creating these communities. And these communities were incredibly important in the towns we went into. In fact, at that time, we were being asked by certain northern cities who wanted to revitalise their inner cities particularly. They came to us and said, would we build a Caffè Nero? And they would pay for it. That's how important they felt that the coffee bar was within the community, which was extraordinary. And at that time, I was hanging around a Caffè Nero in Clapham, and there was a journalist who lived in this Caffè Nero. He worked in the Caffè Nero, and he was there 5 days a week. And I would walk in, and he would say, "Paul, come over here. You have to meet John, who's sitting over there. He's the local managing director of the local newspaper, and you should talk to him because he could help you here." And he did this. He created this incredible community in the Caffè Nero. And we got talking about, wouldn't it be great if the internet could be used to bring people together in coffee bars? So this idea was going around in my head. And at the same time, by pure chance really, I went to a lecture on tribalism given by an anthropologist. Don't ask me what I was doing there. And the essence of this lecture was about the breakdown of communities in our society. And the sorts of things he was talking about, the fact that people now move house 8 times in their life. The average stay in a job now is about 4.5 years. And as a result, the communities, it's very difficult to build communities because people are moving all the time. And so I left this lecture just thinking about communities and what we could do to help you use the internet. Because at the same time, there was this incredible growth going on in the internet. And in 2001, 34%, a third of the population of this country were using the internet. By 2013, 90% were using the internet. 2015, 55 million people now in this country use the internet. So there was this incredible growth. Just like coffee bars had exploded, the internet was the same sort of dynamic really was going on there. In addition to that, social networking was taking off. Put it in context, and I looked up these numbers. Facebook in 2001 had 1 million users. In 2015, it's got 1.5 billion users. In this country alone, there are 36 million users of Facebook. So there's, again, an incredible explosion in a market. And so all these trends and these mega trends going around in my head, and I felt there had to be something that we could do. to use the internet to build communities. And so what did I do as an entrepreneur? I went out and I found some very cheap East European coders and I built a website. The beauty of the internet is that unlike building coffee bars that cost £30 million, you can create an internet business for hundreds of pounds. I mean, I think I spent £2,000 building a site called meetmeforcoffee.com. Now, amazingly enough, it is still in existence. I know you're all going to rush home today and look at it. It's really embarrassing. And I leave it there as a reminder how not to build a website. So if any of you are thinking of creating an internet business, go and look at meetmeforcoffee.com and don't do anything we did. It was too complex, the coding was appalling, it didn't work properly, it fell over all the time. It was really bad. But we learned a lot in doing that. At the same time, and by pure coincidence, there was someone who I didn't know, living quite near me, living near Battersea, who was burgled. And they just moved into their flat. And literally 2 days later, everything was still in boxes and they were burgled. And everything was taken, and he wanted to tell the neighbours, warn them that there are these burglars around. And he thought about, how could you talk to the neighbours? There was no way of warning the neighbours that there were burglars about and they had to be careful. His brother-in-law, a Cambridge graduate, had been running an IT business. And he went and talked to his brother-in-law and he said, it's crazy, there is nothing out there, there's no site, there's nothing we can do to talk to our neighbours. And they started to develop a site which was called streetbook.com, not streetlight, streetbook.com. They created this site and rather than Meet Me for Coffee was about creating communities in coffee bars, which in itself is a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? Because the coffee bar is too small, really, to have a community. Communities have to be 500 people plus, really. Within the internet and social networking, you need to have a few hundred people. And so Meet Me for Coffee was never going to work. They were creating, Streetbook was about creating communities around where you worked, so much bigger communities. And they also had a problem with it, they couldn't grow it. But it was based in Battersea. They thought it would be viral. Now, when entrepreneurs build internet businesses, our dream is that it's a viral business, right? Virality is wonderful. Facebook was the perfect viral business. They didn't have to spend much money on marketing at all. All the students who were using it would tell all their friends about it, and it grew. It grew enormously quickly without any marketing spend at all. The type of social network we developed doesn't grow virally, which is a real problem. It means you have to spend some money or you've got to actually go into the community and build it. And that's what they did. They lived in Battersea and they went out and they started to go and tell people about Streetbook, as it was then. They put a leaflet through my wife's business door talking about Streetbook, which I picked up. That's a 1 in a billion chance that I would have been there that day, picked up the leaflet, looked at the leaflet and said, but that's my business, that's what I'm doing. I read it and realised that actually their business there, which was very similar to what I was doing, was a lot better. A lot better. So I called them in, pretending to want to advertise on Streetbook. They came in, they told me all about this site, which was working in Battersea. They had about 2,000 members in Battersea then. And I said, I really love this. In fact, I like it so much, I want to buy it. They wouldn't sell it to me, of course. But what happened, cut a long story, we joined forces. In the jargon of the industry, I pivoted. In other words, I got rid of my appalling site and wrong idea and joined forces with Streetbook. We then had to change the name to Streetlight because we knew we were going to be sued by Facebook because they were going out suing everyone who used the name with anything like theirs. And we set about this dream of developing a website, Streetlight, which would help to build communities in the UK, initially in the UK. It didn't work. It didn't work. It's a network business. Now, a network business means it's great and it's awful. It's great because when you have a network, when you've got, say, 1,000, 2,000 people in Battersea, it's a great network. If you go onto Street Life and you ask a question, sorry, I should ask, how many people here know what Street Life is? Right. How many people use Street Life? Okay, yeah, that's good. So Street Life is about, it's a website where you talk to your neighbours. You exchange information with your neighbours. It's a bit like being able to lean over your garden fence and talk to 10,000 of your neighbours. You know, have you seen my cat? Does anyone want my old computer? Who knows a good plumber? You know, all the things that people talk about. That is what Street Life is about. It's about talking to your neighbours. It's a very, very simple idea. But it only works if you've got a network. If you're in a place where you've only got 5 people who are members and you start talking, it doesn't work at all. No one's going to reply to you. So that's the difficulty of it. The beauty of a network business like Street Life is that once your network is in place, it's a natural monopoly. No one can ever break it. And so once you've built that network, you have an incredibly valuable tool. Facebook, that is a network business. The problem is, how do you build a network? And we were faced with that because the people who use Street Life tend not to use a lot of other social networks. They're not people, there's no virality there at all. And we went through an awful time, particularly around 2013, where we'd spent quite a lot of money developing the site, but we only had 20,000 members. Didn't work at all. Ultimately, when we found we couldn't grow the site, and we had a lot of competition. There were 7 other businesses in the UK who were trying to do the same thing. The technologists, the coders, got together and they built an extraordinary machine, which was really a big data processing machine. And what they realized is that if we could target certain communities very, very specifically, there might be a way of then marketing in a very tight geography which would allow us to grow a community in a very small area, but area by area by area. That might not sound difficult, but all 7 companies in this space were trying to do the same thing. So we went out, we bought every single address in the UK, we bought all the demographic data in the UK. So we would know, according to where you live, we would know where you go on holiday, what car you drive, probably how much you earn. It's amazing what information is out there. And we bought all of this data. And they put together this machine with a bunch of very, very clever algorithms that would allow us, that we would feed in, on one end we would say, right, we've got £50,000 to spend on marketing. Where should we do the marketing and how should we do the marketing? And it would tell us, it said, this is the address of the next most likely member of Street Life. Absolutely incredible. And we raised a bit of money, because we had to test it, of course. We thought that was really clever. And we raised enough money that we could actually test this. And we tested it in Sevenoaks, I remember. And we did a trial in Sevenoaks, and there were no members of Street Life in Sevenoaks. And within 3 weeks, we had over 1,000 members just in Sevenoaks, and we had a thriving community. A thriving community to us means people are talking all the time. There's a lot going on. It's a really active community. People obviously enjoy using it. And that was a sort of a bingo moment. By the time we discovered that, all of our competitors had left the market. That's how difficult it was. And a couple of them were very, very well funded. They were very wealthy companies. They gave up. They got out. They couldn't work out how to grow a network. And we had it. The problem then, obviously, the great problem we had was that we had to raise more money. So we raised £600,000, and I think by middle of last year, we had grown it to 500,000 users. And it was clearly, it was working extremely well. Late last year, on the back of those 500,000 users, we went out and raised another £2 million. And incredibly, we raised that entirely from individuals, people who believed in building communities in the way we were doing with Street Life. We raised £2 million. In fact, we were oversubscribed, we raised £3 million. And today, we're sitting there with this wonderful community builder called Street Life, with 1.1 million users. in about 5,000 active communities all around the country now. So this sort of, what we call it Street Life Community Builder, this sort of big data machine has allowed us now to spread throughout the country and to build it to 1.1 million users, which is a lot better than a couple of years ago. Incredible growth. I mean, there were days when we were adding 20,000 users a day. That's amazing. I mean, in Caffè Nero, if we added 20 users a day, we were happy. But in the internet world, it's just on another massive scale. We were adding 20,000 a day. We're currently in the process, so the UK is not done. I mean, we think that we can get up to about 5 or 6 million users in the UK. And the bit that is still not done that we're working on at the moment is monetization. Before anyone asks a question, you know, what is our revenue stream? At the moment, we have very, very little revenue stream. But we have a very loyal audience who come back, use the site all the time. They use it for incredible things, for building community programs, obviously for giving things away, for selling things. A lot of local businesses use it to promote themselves in the community. So really, really useful community tool. But up to now, we haven't really bothered about trying to earn money. We're now in the process of what they call a monetization process, where we believe we can turn all these millions of users and 40,000 businesses have registered, we can turn that into cash flow. And that's where we are at the moment. And as we're doing that, we're actually in the process of raising, we're in the middle of discussions at the moment, what we call our Series B fundraising, which we're going to be raising about, $25 million plus. And the valuation of the business, I can't even talk about, but it's astronomical. You wouldn't believe what people are valuing the business at now. Compared to 2 years ago, when it was worth maybe a couple of £1 million, that's extraordinary. And what we're going to do with this money is take the UK up to about 4 or 5 million users. So that's really, we would say that's about 40% market share of all the households we think we can approach in this country. We'd have about 40% market share, and it'll take us into 5 continental countries. So that's our ambition at the moment. I'm a realist. Until the money's in the bank, you shouldn't count it, or you can't count it. But we believe that by early next year, we'll be growing in a few other European countries. That's Street Life. Very different to bricks and mortar, Caffè Nero. What we've done in the last 2 years is 1.1 million users. It's an incredible network which is going out there. Very, very exciting. The dynamic of the internet businesses are extraordinary, absolutely amazing. I suppose I'll finish off, because while I was thinking about today, I was just thinking about what are the attributes of an entrepreneur, and what has sort of driven me to help to create these 2 businesses, both underpinned by great teams. I think there were 3 things in particular which I pulled out. I think first of all, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to create a business, you have to have really profound optimism. The glass is always half full. You can never be a pessimist. You just have to be that eternal optimist. Of course, that drives my wife mad. She's French. She's always looking at the other side of things, but you have to be that optimist and never ever drop that optimism. That's absolutely critical. Number 2, you have to be utterly stubborn. There were so many times in the life of Caffè Nero, and even more in the life of Street Life, where we could have given up. I didn't talk about all the difficult times. We ran out of money constantly. It was really tough. We went through a couple of really, really difficult years, and people had put their mortgages, their lives on the line on this, but we just wouldn't give up. And as an entrepreneur, you just can't give up. You have to keep going. Even when you've got 5 minutes to bankruptcy, you still believe something's going to come along and save the business. And, of course, above all, you have to have a total belief in what you're doing. You can't, there can't be any doubt whatsoever in your own mind that that idea that you've got, however many people are telling you that it's never going to work, you've got to believe in it totally. So we went through years when everyone's telling me coffee bars wouldn't work. We went through, until very recently, everyone told us that street life wouldn't work. Professional investors, whoever. But we never, ever gave up believing in that dream that we'd had to create this community social network. And that is absolutely critical for any entrepreneur. It might not work. Let's be clear, a lot of businesses don't. But then you have another dream, and you follow that. And that's what you have to do. So a very, very final thought is maybe this weekend, if you haven't yet got to know your neighbours, get to know them. And whatever you do, please, all of you who didn't put up your hands, please do join Street Life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was absolutely inspiring. And I think the connection for us is that universities are important communities too. And we're always talking about how can we extend our community, make it work better. How we do that digitally is always a question. So I think you've given us a lot of food for thought. Maybe we need a Southampton University Street Life or something. Maybe the next thing we need to do. But thank you so much. And this is just a very small token of our appreciation for them. Paul says he's got time for a couple of questions. If people want to ask them, we've just got a couple of minutes for this.
Yeah, please.
I think the impact on the exits of ad blockers.
Sorry.
What do you think the impact of ad blockers is going to be on the internet?
So ad blockers, if people aren't aware, they will block any ad if you're looking at a website. They'll block the ads coming up. I mean, obviously, the danger there is that at the moment the industry is very much built on ads and monetization, and without revenue coming through from ads, clearly, a lot of businesses won't be able to survive. Actually, there was a very good article, I think it was today in the FT, about what might happen. First of all, they'll only block certain ads, and so for Street Life, for instance, it won't impact us at all. But if it becomes ubiquitous, certainly, then the ad industry is they're going to have to get together and discuss how this can work effectively, because the revenue stream is absolutely critical as it is today. I think it will evolve, like all these things. People are saying, it's going to be a disaster, and the internet, the whole industry is going to come to an end. I don't think that. I think there's going to be an accord, and somehow we'll find a middle way of ensuring that the revenue streams continue to come through. Without monetization, without revenue, there won't be any websites here. We can't exist here. Street Life will stop working. So we will find a way through it, but it's not yet clear, I think, and I don't have the answer.
So Paul, before we started off tonight, you said that you might have put in your talk something about the end of capitalism. So maybe you just want to just say something about this for the last couple of minutes.
No, on a kind of a slightly more serious note, as an entrepreneur, and particularly working with small businesses and businessmen who run generally businesses with under 50 or 100 employees, clearly it's a great concern that I think many people's impression of business and capitalism over the last 10 years has been very negatively impacted by all the scandals, banking scandal, Enron scandal, insider trading. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I'm thinking about, what is it? What can we do to try and change that. Capitalism can evolve, and I think, in a way, I feel sort of guilty in a way of being part of a generation where we've just let it go on, and now we're saying, oh, that's terrible. What do we? I think it's partly, it's up to us to actually make sure that it does evolve. So one of the things we've done in street life, which if any of you who are involved in businesses, I would ask you to sort of look at it very carefully. We've just become one of the first B corporations in this country. We're one of the first 43 B corporations in the UK. And a B corporation is a business which is not just focused on short-term profit. Wow, what an incredible thought. And we have to build, to become a B corporation, you have to build into your articles of association. In other words, legally, as a business now, and I'm chairman of Street Life, so I have to take notice of this, is that we have to run the business not just for short-term profits. We have to run it thinking about the community, about social good, about our employees, about our suppliers, about the environment, about sustainability. Because we think that actually, in the long run, that will actually lead to greater profits. Maybe short-term profits will be affected, but that's our part now, and I think trying to change the world a little bit and change the way the business is set up. So we've become a B corporation. It's a really great certification. It is work. It's not a crazy amount of work, but I think it's a really good thing to do, and it sends a clear message both to your customers and to your suppliers and to your employees that you are more than just this sort of profit-making machine, and that you actually are taking notice of things outside of that for the greater good of our community. And so I do urge all of you, if you are in any way involved in a business, university as well, to think about B Corporation.
Thank you. I think we'll probably leave it there, if that's all right. Thank you very much, Paul.